So, hello students. We'll be continuing with our topic of the pharyngeal apparatus. So, we'll cover the development of the thyroid gland. So, your specific learning objectives for the thyroid gland is you should be able to describe the development of thyroid gland, and you should be able to explain the embryological basis of ectopic thyroid and the aberrant thyroid tissue, and you should be able to explain the embryological basis of thyroglossal cyst or fistula. So, firstly, we'll start with the development of the thyroid gland. So, just a small revision of the class what we have studied. These were the pharyngeal arches. These were the ectodermal clefts intervening the pharyngeal arches. These are the endodermally lined pouches between the first, this one is the second, this one is the third, and this one is the fourth pharyngeal arch. And likewise their counterparts on the other side of the pharynx. So we are seeing the pharynx from the ventral side, from below the floor of the pharynx. So this one is the first, second, third, fourth pharyngeal arch. This one is the outer side, so it is lined ectodermally, and this one is the endodermal lining. Now the mesenchyme will proliferate, and they will grow and meet their counterparts from the on the other side. On the both the sides, they will grow towards the midline. So the first pharyngeal arch was forming the two lateral lingual swellings, and one small median swelling was the tuberculum impart. The second pharyngeal arch was growing in the middle side, giving rise to a small swelling which was known as copula. Then in front of the copula was a small dip that was known as, this was the foramen cecum. Then is the third pharyngeal arch and the fourth pharyngeal arch growing towards the midline in the center, giving rise to a hypobranchial eminence, its cranial part, contributing to the posterior one-third of the tongue. The second arch, this copula, it will be overgrown by this hypobranchial eminence, the cranial part of the hypobranchial eminence. So now we will see a cut section from here. This one is the foramen cecum. So over here now, this one is the first pharyngeal cleft. Then the second pharyngeal cleft, as you know, is overgrowing the third and the fourth one. So these are the regressing the third and the fourth clefts. And this one is an epicardial bridge or the cardiac fold with which this cervical, the second second ectodermal cleft will be moving. This was the cervical sinus which was formed. Now we will see the inner aspect, that is, this was the first pharyngeal pouch which was forming the tubotympanic recess. So this one is the first pharyngeal pouch. Then the second one forming the tonsillar fossa for the tonsil. Then now the third. Now the third had a dorsal and a ventral component. Then again the fourth, it has a dorsal and a ventral component. Ventral component was the ultimobranchial body. So this was the third pouch having a dorsal and the ventral component. Dorsal was the inferior parathyroid. The ventral component was the thymic element. And the dorsal component was the superior parathyroid, the inferior one being the ultimobranchial complex. Now, this was a second arch. So over here will be the foramen cecum. So from here, this thyroglossal duct will grow downwards, and it will be the tip of this thyroglossal duct, which is descending downward, it will now proliferate and it will form a bilobed structure which is connected into the center by an isthmus. Now, why this thyroglossal the duct stops growing till this fourth arch only? Because this ultimobranchial complex or the caudal pharyngeal complex, it acts as a checkpoint for its further descent. Otherwise, it would have grown into the heart. Here will be the pericardial cavity. So it would have grown into the thoracic cavity. So this ultimobranchial complex or the caudal pharyngeal complex made up of lateral thymic element, lateral thyroid element, and the ultimobranchial body. It will check the further descent of this thyroglossal duct into the thoracic cavity. Now, the ultimobranchial body and lateral thyroid element, it may incorporate in this developing thyroid tissue, but some authors believe that lateral thyroid element is not incorporated into it. The thyroglossal duct only becomes bifurcated and forms the thyroid gland as a whole. The ultimobranchial body, it contributes to the parafollicular C cells producing calcitonin of the thyroid gland. So now we'll start with our class. So the thyroid gland, it is the first gland, first endocrine gland which develops in the embryo. So under the influence of the fibroblast growth factor, it begins to develop in 24 days after fertilization. So firstly, there will be an endodermal thickening. This one is the lateral section or longitudinal section of the growing embryo. This one is the head end. This one is your foregut, yellow one. So this is the endodermal lining of the foregut. So it starts with a median endodermal thickening at the foramen cecum in the floor of the primordial pharynx. So now this thickening, the cells will proliferate and soon there will be a outpouching from this endodermal thickening, which is known as thyroid primordium, and it is also known as thyroglossal duct. So now as the tongue will grow, the thyroid will start descending down into the neck. Now over here you can see this one is the, now you can have a better look. This one is the endodermal thickening. Then there is first a depression of this endodermal thickening. Then by the proliferation of the cells, it will assume a duct-like appearance. So it will form a thyroglossal duct. Now as it reaches downward, in front of the laryngeal cartilages, developing laryngeal cartilage, it will become bifid. So now that it will further grow and it will form the two lobes of the thyroid gland, which is connected in the middle by the isthmus. Then I told you it is checked by the ultimobranchial complex or the caudal pharyngeal complex. So the ultimobranchial body, it gets incorporated in this descending thyroid, and the further descent is prohibited or prevented. Then this thyroglossal duct, it starts degenerating. So you can see this is the whole descent of the thyroid gland, starting from the foramen cecum, then it descends down, then it winds round the border of the hyoid bone, but throughout its course it remains anterior to the thyroid cartilage, because the foramen cecum, it is lying anterior to the epiglottal swelling, so it is always anterior to the laryngeal cartilages. So finally, it will descend down and finally it will be arrested in front of the laryngeal cartilages because of the caudal pharyngeal complex, where it will be forming its lobes, the two lateral lobes joined by the isthmus. Sometimes there may be presence of a pyramidal lobe, which is present in around 50% of the population, that is supposed to be contributed by the thyroglossal duct itself. So now what is the fate of this thyroid primordium? The thyroid primordium, it is hollow, but because of the proliferation of the cell, it becomes a solid mass. Then with further descent, its terminal tip, it becomes bifid, and then it divides into the right and the left lobes that are connected by the isthmus. Now these all, this thyroid tissue, it is present anterior to these tracheal rings. Why? Because foramen cecum is the place which is from where the thyroglossal duct is originating, and it is always anterior to the epiglottal swelling, which is giving rise to this laryngeal cartilage. That is the epiglottis. And the rest of the cartilage, of the laryngeal cartilage, they are derived from the third and the fourth pharyngeal arch. So now you can have a better look at this diagram. Now, further development of the thyroid, at the 7th week, the thyroid has assumed its definitive shape and it is located at its final position in the neck. So by this time, the thyroglossal duct, it starts degenerated and it has disappeared. So the proximal part of the duct, it persists as foramen cecum at the junction of anterior 2/3 and posterior 1/3 of the tongue. So what about the pyramidal lobe, which I have already told you? A pyramidal lobe of the thyroid gland, it extends superiorly from the isthmus and it is present in around 50% of the people. So this lobe may be attached to the hyoid bone by a fibrous tissue or a smooth muscle, which is known as levator glandulae thyroidae, which is also derived from the thyroglossal duct. So here, this is the pyramidal lobe, and this is the remnant of the thyroglossal duct. Sometimes it may be attached to this hyoid bone by levator glandulae thyroidae. So now a question arises, why the thyroid is arrested in front of larynx? Why does not it descend as is the thymus tissue in the thoracic cavity? So this one you have to understand, this is the floor of the pharynx which is taken a longitudinal, this a longitudinal section. This one is the developing tongue. This one is the first pharyngeal pouch giving rise to tubotympanic recess. The second pouch giving rise to tonsillar fossa. The third pouch, the inferior parathyroid and the thymic element, the dorsal and the ventral element respectively. This one is the fourth pouch, the superior parathyroid representing the dorsal element. The ventral remnant is the caudal pharyngeal complex. Now this caudal pharyngeal complex had three elements. One was the thymic element, which uh, uh, which contributed or which also got mixed with this migrating thymus, which is a derivative of the third pharyngeal arch. Then it has got a ultimobranchial body, which contributes to the parafollicular C cells of the thyroid gland, and a lateral thyroid element as well, which acts as a checkpoint for this migrating thyroid gland. So during its course of migration, what gets incorporated in thyroid? One is the lateral thymic element, lateral thyroid element, sorry. Then is the superior and the inferior parathyroid, which will get incorporated along its posterior border. So because of this ultimobranchial body or the complex, it does not descend further down into the thoracic cavity. So now you can have a better look. This one is the first pharyngeal pouch, the tubotympanic recess. The second pouch is the tonsillar fossa. The third dorsal element is the inferior parathyroid. Ventral element is the thymic element, which is migrating down in the thoracic cavity. Then is the fourth pouch. The dorsal element is the superior parathyroid, which is more constant in position. The ventral element is the caudal pharyngeal complex, having the three elements: thymic element, ultimobranchial body, contributing to the parafollicular C cells of the thyroid, and the lateral thyroid element, acting as a checkpoint for this further migrating thyroid gland. Now, the clinical considerations. The first clinical consideration is the thyroglossal cyst and fistula. So, normally we have studied, sorry, that this thyroglossal duct, it disappears, it regresses. But sometimes there may be a remnant of this thyroglossal duct. So it may persist in a form of a cyst, either in the substance of the tongue or in the anterior part of the neck, just below the hyoid bone. Then most of the thyroglossal cysts, they are observed at 5 years of age. Unless the lesion is infected, most of the patients, they remain asymptomatic. So if it is this duct, if it is fluid filled, it gives rise to the formation of thyroglossal cyst, which appears as a neck swelling. Then if this cyst is remain untreated, then it may perforate outside on the outside the neck. So in this condition, it is known as thyroglossal sinus. So over here, you can see this one is the perforated thyroglossal duct or the cyst, which is opening outside on the neck in front of the laryngeal cartilage is the most common site of its opening. Over here, you can see this one is the thyroglossal sinus. And if the internally also this thyroglossal duct, if it is opening into the pharyngeal wall, then it forms a fistula, thyroglossal fistula. So thyroglossal sinus and a thyroglossal fistula. And with this, you should not confuse this thyroglossal sinus with the cervical sinus, which is an anomaly of the second pharyngeal cleft, which when it fails to overgrow the third and the fourth clefts, while this is the anomaly of thyroglossal duct. When the cyst, it remains untreated, it becomes infected, and it becomes perforated. So now this thyroglossal duct, it is opening outside by an opening which is known as thyroglossal sinus. Then is the ectopic thyroid. So there are, when the thyroid tissue is present, uh, apart from its normal course, if it is present anywhere along its line of descent, so then it is known as ectopic thyroid. So most common is the lingual thyroid when it is just present in below the mucosa of the tongue. Then there may be sublingual thyroid when it is present in the substance of the tongue. Then there may be infrahyoid or the cervical thyroid when it is present just below the hyoid bone. So when this thyroglossal duct, if its descent is hampered along its normal course uh, earlier than the laryngeal cartilages, earlier when it reaches the laryngeal cartilages, then it gives rise to an ectopic thyroid gland. That's all. This completes the development of the thyroid gland. It is a very important topic asked in gross as well as in the spotting. So go through it thoroughly.